I'm going to show you a video for International Workers' Day, May Day. Or as your HR department probably calls it, that annoying Wednesday where we legally have to let the wage slaves rest. Welcome back to The Cardboard Guy, where it allows you to take a little trip down memory lane. I'm so tired of the hustle culture podcast telling you that if you just wake up at 4 a.m. and take cold showers, you'll be a billionaire. No, Kyle, you won't. You'll just be tired, wet, and still deeply in debt. Support me by hitting that subscribe button. And if you want to understand why you feel a soul-crushing dread every Sunday evening, you might want to stick around. Here is my complete, objective, chronologically ordered list of 8 historical labor events that prove the ruling class has been gaslighting us for literal centuries. Let's go. Let's start in the early 1800s, the Luddite movement. Now I know what you're thinking. Luddite is that insult your tech bro cousin uses when you don't want to buy his NFT, or when you complain about an app asking for your exact GPS location just to turn on a flashlight. Society has trained us to think Luddites were just stupid, anti-progress cavemen who hated technology because they didn't understand it. That is a massive, steaming pile of historical revisionism. The original Luddites were highly skilled textile workers in England. They didn't hate the mechanized looms, they hated that the factory owners were using those looms to completely bypass standard labor practices, slash wages, and produce cheap, garbage-quality goods while throwing entire communities into starvation. They weren't smashing the concept of innovation, they were smashing the tools of their own exploitation. And honestly, look at the writers and artists today protesting against generative AI, scraping their life's work without a dime of compensation. Whenever some Silicon Valley venture capitalist calls you a Luddite on Twitter, say thank you, it means you have a spine. The Luddites were incredibly based. Moving on to 1817, our man is Robert Owen and his radical, mind-blowing concept of basic math. Owen was a Welsh textile manufacturer, a rare instance of a factory owner who actually possessed a human soul. He looked around at people working 14 to 16 hours a day in factories, coughing up literal cotton fibers and thought,
hey, maybe humans aren't meant to be meat grinders.
So he coined a slogan, 8 hours labor, 8 hours recreation, 8 hours rest. Think about that. Over 200 years ago, a guy figured out that dividing a 24-hour day into 3 equal parts was the absolute bare minimum for human sanity. Over 2 centuries. Yet here we are in 2026, supposedly the pinnacle of human civilization, and you're still having a mini panic attack because your manager sent you a Slack message at 9:30 p.m. on a Friday. We have supercomputers in our pockets, but we still have to argue with middle management about why we deserve to sleep. It's pathetic. Bringing us to the mid to late 19th century. If you spend any time on X, you've probably seen some visionary CEO pitch the idea of paying employees in proprietary company tokens.
It's an ecosystem.
They scream, you can use it to buy things in our company metaverse. Yeah, hate to break it to you, Elon wannabes, but 19th century coal barons beat you to it. And it was evil then too. Mining companies used to pay their workers not in actual US dollars, but in scrip. Basically fake monopoly money that was only valid at the company store. And guess who set the prices at the company store? The company. Guess who jacked up the price of bread and medicine so the workers were trapped in perpetual debt and couldn't afford to leave? The company. It wasn't an innovative closed-loop financial ecosystem. It was indentured servitude with extra steps. So next time a startup offers you equity in their garbage utility token instead of a salary, run. The Knights of Labor, the 1880s nowadays, massive multinational corporations love to pat themselves on the back. They release shiny 50-page PDF reports about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and change their logos to rainbow colors for exactly 30 days in June. But when it comes to actually paying equitable wages, crickets. Let me tell you about the Knights of Labor. They were one of the first major labor organizations in America. And back in the 1880s, an era not exactly known for its progressive social views, they were actively organizing and admitting women and black workers. Why? Because a bunch of soot-covered, exhausted factory workers fundamentally understood class solidarity better than a modern corporate HR department with a multi-million-dollar budget. They realized that the bosses would use race and gender to divide the working class and drive down wages for everyone. Intersectionality isn't some new woke trend invented by college professors in 2015. It was a survival tactic pioneered by the 19th century working class. And one thing about me, you cannot change my mind on this. Corporate DEI is just PR. Union solidarity is actual power. The Haymarket Affair of May 1886. Workers in Chicago went on a massive general strike to demand that Robert Owen's 8-hour workday actually become the law. It was mostly peaceful, but the police, acting as the personal goon squad for the city's elite, fired into the crowd and killed a few workers. A few days later, during a rally at Haymarket Square to protest the police brutality, an unidentified person threw a bomb. The cops panicked, started shooting in the dark, killing their own men and more civilians. What did the state do? Did they look for the actual bomber? No, they rounded up 8 anarchist and labor leaders, most of whom weren't even at the square when the bomb went off, put them through a kangaroo court and hanged 4 of them. Immediately branded the labor movement as violent, un-American terrorists. Asking for 8 hours of sleep literally cost these men their lives. That blood is the ink the 8-hour workday was written in. Never ever let them tell you that weekends and sick leaves were gifts from benevolent job creators. They were fought for, and they were died for. And speaking of benevolent job creators, let's look at George Pullman and his company Town in 1894. George Pullman manufactured luxury train cars. He built a beautiful, pristine town for his workers near Chicago. It had parks, a library, theaters. Sounds amazing, right? Just like those big tech campuses that offer you free gourmet sushi, dry cleaning, and nap pods. But here's the catch. When the economic panic of 1893 hit, Pullman slashed his workers' wages by 30%. But you know what he didn't slash? The rent he charged them to live in his houses. When the workers went to complain, he fired them. This led to the massive Pullman strike that shut down the nation's railroads. Pullman taught the ruling class a very valuable lesson. The best way to exploit someone is to disguise the cage as a luxury resort. Free snacks in the break room aren't a perk. They are a calculated strategy to make sure you never leave the building. Don't fall for the ping pong table trap, folks. Take your lunch break outside. June 1894, the creation of the American Labor Day in September. This is without a doubt the greatest psychological operation ever pulled off by the US government. After the federal government brutally crushed the Pullman strike using the military, President Grover Cleveland realized, oh crap, the workers are really mad. He needed an olive branch, but he was terrified of making May 1st a national holiday because it was tied to the Haymarket Martyrs and, God forbid, international socialism. So what did they do? They created a fake, sanitized Labor Day in early September. They completely decoupled the holiday from its radical, bloody history. They turned a day of global working-class solidarity into a long weekend where you buy discounted mattresses and eat lukewarm potato salad. It is a masterclass in gaslighting. They literally invented a barbecue holiday just to make you forget who your actual enemies are. You really got to hand it to them, it worked perfectly. But not on me. I see you, Grover. I see you. Finally, 1914, Henry Ford's famous $5 a day wage. If you ever took an Economics 101 class, your professor probably teared up talking about Henry Ford. He doubled his workers' wages so they could afford to buy the cars they were making. What a genius philanthropist. Absolute garbage. Here is the truth. Ford's new moving assembly line was so mind-numbingly repetitive, so physically destroying, and so utterly alienating that his turnover rate was over 370%. People were walking out in the middle of their shifts because they'd rather starve than turn a wrench for one more minute. Ford didn't increase wages out of the goodness of his heart. He did it because the cost of constantly hiring and training new workers was destroying his profit margins. He was paying them a premium to endure psychological torture. It's the exact same script today when a billionaire CEO makes a massive charitable donation right after a report drops about their warehouse workers having to pee in plastic bottles. It's PR and basic calculus, not morality. So there you have it. My top 8 moments that prove the history of labor is just the history of the working class getting screwed and then having their history rewritten by the winners. May Day was an absolute win for humanity. Do me a favor, log off. Don't check your emails. Don't let your boss make you feel guilty for resting. You are not a machine, and you don't owe your soul to a company that would replace you before your obituary is even printed. If this video made you uncomfortable, good. If you want to argue with me in the comments, bring it on. Stay mad all you want, but you can't argue with history. Thank you for watching. Solidarity forever. Cardboard Guy will see you next time.